So hello and welcome to today's Info2Go webinar. My name is Annie Gaines. I am the Continuing Education Consultant here at the Idaho Commission for Libraries, located in sunny Boise, Idaho. Our webinars and other continuing education opportunities are funded by the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Everyone is muted, and we encourage you to use the chat feature to ask questions and discuss with other attendees. As you exit the webinar, you'll be prompted to complete an evaluation. And as always, we appreciate your honest feedback. Today's topic is introducing coding to your library, and our presenter is Luke Miller from Fiero Learning. Luke, take it away.
Thanks, Annie. So excited to be here with all of you today. I'm looking forward to just spending the next 4 or 5 hours talking about coding. Kidding. If you weren't here earlier, I already made that joke. No, the next hour or so we'll hang out talking about coding in libraries, and it's going to be super fun. Just to give you some context for who I am, I'm the founder of Fiero Learning. Fiero Code is part of what we do, coding in libraries. We've been working in libraries. We were volunteers, if you can believe it or not, 10 years ago in 2013 at our local public library in Phoenix, Arizona, where I lived at the time at the Mesa Public Library. So 10 years in, I don't have a master's in library sciences, but hopefully I have an honorary membership to Libraryland, having worked with libraries for a long time now. So that's just a little context for me. I do live in Forest Grove, Oregon, which Annie and I were just talking about. So not too far from all of you over there in Idaho, and I'm excited to spend some time with you. This is all about, when we talk about coding in libraries, it's all about unlocking hopeful futures for people. Coding, we'll talk about it more, but it's unbelievable, the impact that it can make on people. And so by the time we're done today, I think you're going to be excited, you're going to feel equipped, and just you have everything that you need to potentially do some coding stuff at your library. So here's how I think we should spend our time together today. I think we should start in true Code Club style and have just a little bit of relational time. Got a good handful of people on the call, so I've got a question that we'll kind of chat around in just a moment using the chat. So if you haven't found the chat yet, go ahead and find that. And then a couple topics that I want to go over. I want to talk about why coding is important, like the kind of impact that it's going to make so that you can get your hearts behind this coding thing. And I want to talk about why libraries, like why should libraries care about this, right? That maybe doesn't seem like the most natural fit, but we'll talk about that. And then I want to talk about how you, yes, you can bring coding to your library. And then lastly, I've got kind of a tool chest of resources, free resources and stuff I just want to give you to support and equip you to do this at your library. So let's start out with some relational time, just have some fun. We're all humans, right? Well, we can get on a call like this and just be human for one moment. That might be fun. So here's the question today. If money were no object, what would you do all day, every day? So I want you to find the chat, maybe put what library you're coming in from also, just like, hey, this library, this town or whatever, and then answer that question. If money were no object, what would you do all day, every day? Breck, you can be my, who's that guy? Oh, you can be my Andy Richter to Conan O'Brien. Breck, what would you, if money were no object, what would you do all day, every day?
Oh, probably vacation with my family and go to different places. And my wife she's the trip planner, so she would plan it all probably. But
Breck's my co-founder. Breck's vacation skills are top notch. Like, he is an excellent vacationer. So I believe that about you. Annie said she would make art and play video games. Super fun. ICFL. Is that a video game I should know? I don't know. And then Annie, follow-up question. What kind of art? What's your art medium of choice currently? I'll answer that while you're replying. The rest of you, feel free to put your answers in the chat and let's just have some fun getting to know each other. My answer is I would probably try to find a shed somewhere, like in my backyard, and I would lock myself away in it and make moody, electronic, lo-fi, hip-hop beats all day, every day. get my little computer and start just noodling around making moody music all day. Cool. So Annie's art form of choice right now or medium is printmaking. That sounds fun. Very cool. All right, well, let's keep rolling. That was fun. Thanks, everybody. So let's talk about why coding is important. The whole point here is I want you to be able to get your hearts behind this topic. You are librarians. Librarians are amazing. We love librarians. What I love about you is that you really lead with your heart. You really care. You want to make an impact on the people in your community. And I think that's a beautiful thing. So I want to start this whole conversation with why, so that you can get your hearts behind it. That's going to fuel you and give you motivation and perseverance to actually bring coding to your community. So let's start with a little quote. Drew Houston, he's the founder of this teeny tiny little tech startup called Dropbox. You've probably never heard of it. But he says that coding is the closest thing we have to a superpower. So when we talk about like, why should we care? Why should we want people in our community to learn how to code? It's because we want them to have superpowers, right? We want to give our people superpowers. And we at Fiero, we think of those superpowers in kind of two different categories. First of all, there's this very like awesome category that I call life skills. Coding has been connected to gaining all of these life skills. You can pull up your research database of choice. You probably have several different ones that you could choose from at your library right now, but pull one of those up, EBSCO or ProQuest or whatever. Do a search on computational thinking and just look at the wealth of articles, of research, of literature that's been written about computer programming education and how it makes you an amazing problem solver, critical thinker, creative thinker. Gives you this design thinking skill set, just like broad digital literacy. Computer programming is connected with all of those things. And by teaching it, you are, by definition, giving these people skills that will last for the rest of their life. It will set them up to succeed in all of their life. It doesn't matter what their careers are. It doesn't matter what their jobs are. You know, this is just going to set them up to succeed in their families, in their relationships, in their communities, in their neighborhoods, all of that stuff. And that is huge. That's like, we can't even quantify it, how big of an impact that's going to make on the people in your community. So we are just stoked about computer programming because it's going to give these types of skills to the people that engage in it. The other side of the coin is a little bit more practical, and it's jobs. There are so many jobs out there today. The statistic is that there's over 600,000 unfilled computer programming jobs in the United States today. That's not total jobs. That's jobs that they can't find enough people to fill. That's unbelievable, right? That means there are a lot of jobs out there. You don't have to move to the big city. You don't have to go to San Francisco or New York City or even Boise. Annie, nothing wrong with Boise. But you don't have to go there if you want to get these jobs. They're more and more remote. As long as you have an internet connection, you can stay in your hometown and you can get these jobs. Average national salary for an entry-level computer programmer is somewhere in the neighborhood of $85,000 a year. Now, I know you librarians, it might be hard. You make 3 or 4 times that, right? So it might be hard for you to wrap your head around us normal people, us average Joes. But $85,000 a year for entry level is a pretty exciting thing to get excited about. I'm joking, okay? But that's like a real thing. 18, 19-year-olds that are getting these jobs and making a lot of money. That's like a big impact on their lives. And then the last thing I'll say about jobs is that computer programming is more and more a basic skill for any job. It doesn't matter if you are a librarian or a farmer or a pharmacist, you're going to have to know how to code at least a little bit to succeed in those careers more and more in the future. You as librarians, you can probably relate with this. Many of you are running complex reports and setting filters on things as you run those reports, and you're making updates to websites to talk about the programs that are coming up or what new resources your library has. all of those things are coding. Like all of that counts as this coding stuff. So you can maybe relate with the way that the world is changing right now. So that's why, that's like the impact on the end user. That's the way that it's going to transform their lives. It's going to give them amazing life skills like problem solving, critical thinking. It's going to open up these unbelievable job opportunities for people. And for those reasons, I would encourage you and challenge you to get your heart behind this. Like you can sink your teeth into this. There is a lot here that gives you like a reason to get excited about coding. Now, the last thing I'll say here is why libraries? Like, okay, we understand the impact it's going to make on people in general, but why should libraries care at all, right? We've got a lot of other stuff we're doing. Like, this isn't really library stuff, coding. How does that fit? Well, let me just make a case for that. And maybe you've already connected the dots here, but in case not, let me just make a case for why libraries matter. This kind of thing, this like bringing opportunity to the people in your community, this is just part of the library DNA. Like at the very core of what public libraries are in our world is these ideas, these values of leveling the playing field, providing access to those that don't have it, all of that stuff. And coding education is something that people do not have access to right now. Students aren't getting it. Adults don't have access to it. Nobody right now, like the statistics are just sad about how many people have access to computer programming education. So that gives the library an opportunity to step into that gap and to fill that need for your community. And it's just a natural fit. At the same time, there's this whole movement in libraries right now. Libraries are transforming. We're moving out of kind of the old mode of library land where it's all about books and circulation into a transformed library that's all about it's all about providing a value to your community. It's about programs, it's about education, it's about people lifting themselves up, it's about creating a community space where people can come together and better themselves. And so all that's happening in library land right now, in coding, fits smack in the dab of the middle of all of those themes. There's a website from the American Library Association called Libraries Transform. It's a couple years old now, but it's all about these new, like what a new library is. And you'll see things like STEM, you'll see coding called out, you'll see education, you'll see programs, all of these ideas that coding fits right in the middle of. You probably heard this quote if you've been in library land for any amount of time from Andrew Carnegie. I love it, and it's so applicable here. He says, a library outranks any other thing a community can do to benefit its people. It's a never-failing spring in the desert. Now, we started Fiero in Phoenix, Arizona, in the Sonoran Desert, you know, saguaro cactuses and all that stuff. And since then, we've seen coding just be an amazing, never-failing spring to people all around the world. So I want you to imagine for just a moment, let's imagine that tomorrow you start some coding program at your library and you start inviting kids or adults or whoever to come to the library and start learning how to code. Let's imagine that you keep that up for a couple years. Let's say you've got a 15-year-old that comes to your program tomorrow, and you keep it up for the next 3, 4, 5 years, doing some coding stuff every so often at the library. I just want you to get a picture for what that's going to do for this person. Let's say that woman starts learning how to code, and then in 4 years, she's 19 or 20 years old, and I want you to imagine her driving back into the library parking lot, and she parks her Ferrari there, and she comes in and she's like, hey, I learned how to code here and it totally changed my life. Come check out my Ferrari in the driveway, for crying out loud. I'm kidding. It's not all about Ferraris and stuff, but that is the kind of impact that this can have on the people in your community. So think of a couple of those faces that you see day in and day out. Maybe they're the kids that are just coming to play Minecraft or Roblox day after day in the public use computers, or maybe it's a houseless friend that is using the library for a variety of different services. Think about the impact that learning how to code can make on that person. So that's the why. Okay, we've talked about why coding in general, why for libraries specifically. And I've talked about this a lot with thousands of librarians over the years. And it's really cool to see, because at some point you start getting more and more and more excited, where you're like, yeah, and you're like, let's go storm the castle and bring coding to all the people in my community. And you're all hyped up and excited. But then it's like you hit a brick wall and you're like, oh, wait a second. We're still talking about coding, right? Oh, I can't do that. I don't know how to code. That's going to be too hard for me. So you kind of hit this motivation like brick wall, and you're like, I want to, but I can't. And there's a couple reasons why you can't. Maybe you don't know how to code, and that can feel very intimidating. In fact, let's go ahead and do just another chat poll here. Go ahead, rate your coding expertise on a scale of 1 to 10. And I want you to put in the chat what your rating is. 10 being you're an expert coder, you code all the time, and 1 being I'm terrified of coding. I've never coded a day in my life, and I never want to. So rate yourself somewhere on that scale, 1 to 10. I have nightmares of coding. That might be another way to think of a 1. And throw your answer in the chat. Okay, we've got 5, 6, somewhere in there. Yeah. And so that's pretty normal for librarians. Got another 5. Okay, so that's actually a little bit, have 2 5s in one group. That's a little bit unusual. Very common to see 1s and 2s and 3s. You know, in library land, maybe your exposure to computer programming is typically like you did some HTML and CSS in your library degree program, which is great. But it's not probably enough to feel confident or competent to run coding programs. And then the second thing is your age. Maybe you customized your MySpace page back in the day. And that's, again, dependent on your age and where you were at when MySpace was going on. But that's a lot of librarians I talk to, kind of the 2 areas where they've been exposed to coding. And if you don't know how to code, or if you don't think of yourself as an expert, it can feel very intimidating and overwhelming and scary to run any type of coding program. The second problem is that many librarians don't have a lot of extra time. You feel pretty full on your capacity and your schedule. You're running other programs, you're doing all kinds of other stuff. It can feel very overwhelming to think about trying to run any type of coding program at your library. So because of those 2 issues, those 2 problems, a lot of librarians will disqualify themselves and count themselves out. But I'm here to tell you, you don't have to do that. With the model that I'm going to teach you today, anyone can run a code club, even if you don't know how to code. We've seen thousands of code clubs start all around the world using the principles that I'm going to teach you right now. It's not as hard as you think. Anybody can do it, even if you don't know how to code. I remember a code club that we helped start years ago now. I forget where it was. It was like somewhere in Middle America. And the code club facilitator was like a grandma, like an older grandma. And I remember she was not comfortable with technology whatsoever. I remember getting an email from her where the entire body of the email was in the subject line. So, you know, I get this email and the subject line's like this tall. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And then I open it up and the body is empty. So she didn't really know how to do email, but she ran an amazing code club, because you don't have to know how to code to run a code club. Anybody can do that. And when I say code club, I just mean like a coding program. You can call it whatever you want. We happen to call them code clubs. So how do we do this? What is our model? Well, we're going to lean really heavily on this thing called connected learning. Connected learning is a pedagogy or an educational philosophy out of UC Irvine in California. And it's been gaining a lot of traction in library land over the past 10 or 12 years. It's fairly new, but it is an amazing educational model for informal learning in places like libraries. There are basically 3 ingredients to a connected learning model. The first thing is that there are educational resources of some kind, whether it's like software or books or PDFs or whatever it might be. There's some type of resource. And YouTube videos are a great example. You can find a YouTube video on just about any topic known to man. So there's this component where there's some type of content or resource being offered or provided. The second ingredient is that there is a non-expert facilitator. We don't call him a teacher, we call him a facilitator. And this would be like you or your library staff, somebody on your team. They would become that facilitator, and they would fill that role. This person is not expected to lecture. They're not expected to stand up front and like reveal all of their knowledge. That's not what a connected learning environment is. Rather, they are there to be a cheerleader. They're there to like wander around the room and tell students how awesome they are and what a great job they're doing. And I'm guessing all of you librarians have the ability to tell somebody how awesome they are, right? So that's the second ingredient. And then the third ingredient is simply a community of learners, peers who are there together building this culture in this environment of learning how to do this stuff together. So when I'm just going to dive in a little bit deeper into each of those three ingredients. So educational resources. Yeah, in general, there's like books, and this is for coding in particular, this slide. Your library may already have some books on coding. That's great. That's a great place to start. YouTube tutorials. You may be able to find some stuff on YouTube. If you've ever used Scratch, the drag and drop coding language developed by MIT, there are YouTube videos for tutorials in Scratch. One of our favorites is a guy called Griff Patch. So if you want to look that up, he makes really good tutorials for Scratch for kids. So there's all kinds of resources that you can find kind of in that category. Additionally, there are a lot of free learn to code resources that are out there. W3 Schools, and you might want to write these down, or I think we can share these slides afterwards, but W3 Schools is a great one. Freecodecamp.com, scratch.mit.edu is another great one. We've got a whole blog post. If you go to fierocode.com/blog, you can find our blog post where we have the comprehensive list to all of the free learn to code resources that are out there. And there's, I don't know, 50 of them. It's some crazy number of stuff that's out there. So that's a great place to start. If you don't know where to go, if you don't have resources to use on coding, there are some places here that you can look right on this slide that you can take and start to use to run your coding programs. And then lastly, there are Fiero's free resources. These are the resources that we've developed in-house and are making available just for this training to be free for you. And so I've got a link here. I'm going to wait till the end because I got a slide, and I'll send that link on the chat. Make sure that you have that. But it's got all kinds of stuff in there that you can take and use to kind of fill this part of the equation, the educational resources portion of the equation. Okay, so that's the first ingredient here is you need some type of educational resource. Here's some ideas of where to get that. The second part of the equation is that you need a non-expert facilitator. In library land, this is often youth, teen, children's librarians, programming librarians. We've had a lot of library assistants do this, and sometimes we even have like volunteers, parent volunteers or otherwise that fill this role also, and that's fine. Libraries can pull it off however they want to, but this role, having this person in the equation is very important. Don't skip this one, okay? Don't just put a bunch of kids or adults in a room and expect them to figure it out on their own. You do need a facilitator, and that person's job is to not be a subject matter expert. They don't have to know how to code. They don't have to ever write a line of code if they don't want to, but their job is to be a cheerleader. A cheerleader are the people who wander around the room and give a lot of high fives and fist bumps and look over students' shoulders at the stuff that they're building and say things like, holy smokes, that's amazing. How did you build that coding thing? You create the right atmosphere for learning, very warm and inviting and uplifting and encouraging. Secondly, this person needs to be a mentor. They're the ones that are like when the students are frustrated and they want to throw in the towel, the mentor is the ones that like they're saying, stick in there. Don't give up yet. You've got this. I believe in you. Just a couple more minutes. I think you're so close to figuring out this problem. They're helping them in those tough moments get over those hurdles. And then lastly, this person needs to be a facilitator. They need to be the ones that are like, Hey, I'm so glad you're here. Let's start working. Okay, here are some of the resources that you can use today. And let's jump in and think of something interesting to work on today. Or if a student gets stuck and they don't know where to go, the facilitator is the one that says, I don't know the answer to your question, but did you ask a friend? And you help facilitate the learning without actually lecturing or delivering the content. Okay, now as you look at all three of these, the cool thing is you can do them all. These are not that hard. Your library skills apply perfectly to be able to do all of these things. I remember getting an email back. I was doing a training for a new code club years and years ago now. And I got an email back the next day, and the librarian, she said, while you're teaching, it struck me that really all you're asking us to do is be a librarian. As a librarian, I don't have to be an expert on cake decorating, tractor repair, or the history of China. I just have to know how to help somebody find information on those things. And I love that, because really connected learning is just asking you as the adult, as the facilitator, to just be the amazing librarian that you already are. There's a TED Talk and an old YouTube video called The Hole in the Wall Computer. Maybe you've heard of this story before, but it was an experiment run on a group of kids in a slum in India. And this researcher came and he installed a computer in the wall of a building where the kids could come and access it. And the computer was loaded with all kinds of educational software. And he did this in a couple different areas. And in some areas, he had a grandma sit around the computer and be there to be this person for the kids. And in some areas, there was no grandma. It was just a bunch of kids using the computer. And then he tested everybody's like proficiency at the beginning. And then after a couple of months, he tested it again. And those with the grandma there, their learning was way higher. Like I forget the numbers, but it was like 2 or 3 times more they were able to learn in the same amount of time versus the kids without a grandma. The grandma didn't even know how to use the computer, right? She didn't even know how to open it up. She didn't know anything about the content inside of the computer, but she was just there to be that encouraging, calming, grounding presence in the whole equation. And it really makes a big difference. So this is a very important role, and it's one that all of you can fill. Okay, so that's the second part of the equation. And then the last part is building this like community of learners. There's really like 3 things that I think having a community provides to the learner's experience. First, there's this like sense of consistency where you run a coding program at your library. You're going to have 10 or 15 people come every week on, Tuesdays at 4 o'clock or something like that. That way, at least you're going to get an hour of coding every week. I'm running an adult coding boot camp right now for adults that want to make career changes. And the people who are doing really well in our boot camp are those that just come every week or most weeks. They don't even come every week, but they come most weeks. And they get at least an hour. Most of them don't have time to do a lot of coding outside of that, but they're coming at least an hour, getting at least that time every week. And while they're there, they've got all the support from the peer group. If they get stuck, they've got people to like ask for help and get support on that. And then they have all the inspiration and motivation by just like being able to share their stuff and get positive feedback and reinforcement from their peers. They can look at what other people are building and sharing, and they get all of that, and that inspires them and motivates them to keep going. So having this peer environment becomes a really cool environment for students to learn in an equation like this. So you've got these 3 components to it. Going back here, you've got the educational resources, a non-expert facilitator, and a community of learners. So libraries, you have everything that you need to pull this off. You have everything you need to run coding programs at your library, except one final thing. And that is this question: how do I get kids or adults unstuck? How do I get learners unstuck? You kind of have to be able to answer this question. This is the final hill that we need to overcome. And luckily, we have developed a 3-step process that's going to get students unstuck every single time. And we have been teaching this for 10 years now. In the early days, I would give out my cell phone number and I would say, if you are in the middle of a code club and somebody is stuck and you've gone through all 3 of these and they're still stuck, call me and I will help you. And guess what? I never got a call. Hundreds at that point of code clubs that were running, and I didn't get a single call for somebody that was still stuck. And that just tells me that this process works. You can take your students through this process every single time. So here's the process, okay? I want you to imagine you're in a code club setting. Students, kids, adults, whatever ages you are more drawn to. Imagine you've got 10 or 15 people around the room and somebody raises their hand and you have that like heart-stopping moment, like, oh no, what am I gonna do? I don't know how to code. How am I gonna help this person? I just want you to follow this process every single time. Ask these questions verbatim if you want to. Number 1, the first time you go up and help them, ask them, what have you tried so far? You see, a lot of times students will just raise their hand right away and they'll just like say, as soon as they get stuck, they haven't built that muscle to try things for themselves. And so what we're doing here is we're saying, no, there are no easy answers in Code Club. You're going to have to actually wrestle with this yourself for a little bit before I really give you the time of day. So if the student's like, I didn't really try anything yet, I would just say something like, oh, okay, cool. Well, go ahead, keep working on it for a couple minutes, try it on your own. And if you're still stuck, let me know and I'll come back and help you at that point. The crazy thing is like 90% of all problems get solved right here in this step. Super easy. Just make them wrestle with it, make them tinker with it a little bit, and they're going to get their own problem solved. 90% of the time, step 1 is all that you're going to have to do. But just for the sake of teaching you this thing, let's imagine that you have to move on to step number 2. So they then tinker with it and work on it for a couple minutes. They're still stuck. They raise their hand again. So the question number 2 is, oh, all right, you're still stuck. That's great. Who else have you asked for help? And this is where we lean into the power of the community, right? We've got all these other people in the room learning alongside of them. And so we're going to lean into the collective expertise of everybody else in the room. And if they haven't already paired up and tried to find an answer from somebody else, I, as the adult, can facilitate that experience by saying something like, hey, who in the room knows how to do this particular thing? And a couple hands will pop up and I'll say, cool, go pair off with one of them and figure it out together. This is kind of a 2-prong win here. First of all, it's going to get this person's problem solved. But secondly, the person who is actually helping solve the problem, the helper, it's going to reinforce that concept even more for them. They're going to have to now turn around and explain that to somebody else and apply it to their issue. So we do this all the time. In the code clubs that we run, we're constantly facilitating these peer resolution kind of experiences. Super effective. Like, we solved 90% of the problems in the first one. Out of the remaining 10%, we solved probably 9% of the remaining ones in step number 2. And that just leaves step number 3. So let's imagine you did step 2 and they were still stuck for some reason. Then you can move on to step number 3, which is, okay, you're still stuck. Well, let's figure this out together. And that's where you then get to sit down and you basically model steps number 1 and steps number 2. You don't hijack their mouse and keyboard and do it for them. You don't just tell them the answer. Now, luckily, most of the time, you're not even going to know the answer, so temptation removed, right? But no, you're going to sit down and model what it looks like to reread the directions. You can try to Google it and try to figure out the answer that way. And you help guide them. You show them what it looks like to explain your problem to somebody else and to listen to their solution. You walk them through that process, and by the time you're done, you're going to have figured out the problem. You're going to have figured out the solution. So just run your students through this all day, every day. It's going to solve your problems. It's going to make your life easy, and it's going to empower you to run your very own code club. Like I said, we've got thousands of code clubs running. This works. Just use this, implement it, and it's going to make your life super, super easy. And if all else fails, I put this in kind of cheekily, but it's actually true. If all else fails, if you get them through all of those steps and they still can't figure out why their program isn't working or how to do what it is that they're trying to do, there is this great new resource called, maybe you've heard of it, Chat GPT. Chat GPT is free. You can create a free account in it. And one of the things Chat GPT does really well is coding. Like ChatGPT is a very good computer programmer. And so you can literally just copy and paste like a line of code and tell it, this is the error I'm getting. Why am I getting this error? And it will tell you how to solve the problem. So I like to use this as kind of a final last resort because it is more in the vein of just getting an answer to your problem. And in Code Club, we like the process. We lean into this growth mindset thing where we're going to wrestle with it and struggle with it and not give up. But it's good to have a backstop there where if all else fails, we can turn to a resource like ChatGPT, get our answer, unlock that person, and get them moving forward again. So that is just a fun tip as far as helping people get unstuck. Now, let's talk about how our code clubs, like this is the format that we teach to run a code club, and thousands of code clubs running around the world. This is what it looks like. Our code clubs are not programs where, let's say, they're 12 weeks and you have to show up every week for 12 weeks. And if you miss a week, then you're behind. That's not a connected learning environment. That's more like traditional education, like K-12 or something like that. Libraries don't really operate that way. Libraries are much more like all about informal learning. And so the way that we run our code clubs are more like a drop-in model where people can come, let's say we're going to be here every Tuesday from 4 to 5 for the next, 20 weeks. Come as much or as little as you want. And you'll have maybe 10 kids that show up or adults that show up on that first week. That's great. Week 2, you might have 8 returning and 5 new ones. That's great. That could, because they're not going linearly. They're not going through the same pace. One of the core concepts of connected learning is that learners get to go at their own pace. So they're self-paced and they get to work on whatever is interesting to them. They're self-guided. So that just works beautifully for library land because that means you put out all the resources you have. You just tell people to pick something and start learning and doing. And then you get to wander around the room and just encourage, give high fives, help people get unstuck, all that thing. It takes a lot of the pressure off. It's really not a resource intensive program. It's not like you have to prep a lesson for every session. It's just a matter of getting those resources curated and ready to be used, and then setting people free to go and do it. So that's the format that we have been teaching. Now, I've got kind of one final litmus test, and then I want to show you some of the free resources that we're going to give you, and then leave some time for Q&A. But yeah, do you have what it takes to run a code club or any type of coding program at your library? Number one, do you care about kids or adults? Do you care about the people in your community? Can you get your heart behind this? Number two, can you give a high five, right? Can you create that cheerleading, uplifting, encouraging environment? High five or whatever, some equivalent emotionally encouraging gesture, right? And then as far as like weekly commitment, this should not be a resource intensive program. If you've got an hour or 2 a week to give, that should be more than enough to run an effective code club. So if you can do those 3 things, if you put check marks next to all of those, then you have everything you need to run a code club in your library to bring coding to your community. So with that in mind, you've got this. You can do this. You're amazing. I will be your cheerleader for 1 minute. You can run coding programs at your library. Take this model, take what we have figured out, take what we've been tweaking and improving for 10 years now, and implement it in your library. It's as easy as picking a date out in the future. Let's see, it's November 7th now. Let's say like January 15th, after the new year, we're going to do 12 weeks of coding and just get the word out there, pick a date, regular meeting day and time, start curating your educational resources and give it a whirl. Like make it happen and go bring these types of opportunities to your students. I mean, remember what we talked about, this person coming back 5 years later with a totally transformed life. We had a story not long ago from a library in New Zealand that was running a code club with Info2Go. And the story was awesome because it was just talking about the impact that coding can make on people. And so there was a student who had been hanging out with the code club. And when they first started coming, the librarian said that their biggest ambition in life was to join a particular gang in their town. So they were going down not a great path, right? They just wanted to join whatever particular gang was in their town. They came to Code Club though, and they were hanging out and they were really like taken to it and they were doing really like pretty good at it. And before long, this student started singing a different tune and they started to say things like, I want to be a video game creator. Like I want to do this. I want to like do this as a job. And when we say things like we exist to unlock a hopeful future, like computer programming can unlock a hopeful future, that's what we're talking about. Like these students can go from hopelessness and no future, joining, only wanting to join a gang, to all of a sudden thinking, I can do this. I've got this. Like I could have this job. I could get that salary. I could, really change my life and it's giving me opportunities. This stuff is interesting to me. All of that could happen as you bring these opportunities. So I will be your cheerleader as you cheerlead them and just say, you've got this. You can do it. I believe in you. You are amazing. So much respect for what you do day in and day out at the library. Love the way that you level the playing field. You bring access to those that don't have it otherwise. This is an amazing way to bring access to your community. All right, I want to show you the free resources that we are giving away as part of this training. We've never done this before, but we've packaged up a whole bunch of our resources and even taken some of our content out of our software, pulled everything out and just put it in a doc, like a PDF, so that you can access that. And we're giving this away for free. So I'm just going to copy the link here. I'll put it in the chat. Let me see. And feel free to take this and use it. If the slides are available afterwards, then you can also access it that way. All right, so here are a bunch of the resources. I'm going to start on the right side here. This is the ultimate Hour of Code event for libraries. Now, this is like a one-off event that you can run at your library, and it's got everything that you need here, a whole like course basically for you to be able to run an Hour of Code event at your library. So this is a document that you could either have students open up, or you could print off and have hard copies for people there. And you could actually run your own Hour of Code event. If you're unfamiliar, Hour of Code is a larger coding initiative worldwide. Libraries in different states are getting really into this Hour of Code. I know in North Dakota, they're doing a big push for Hour of Code in libraries. But in conjunction with this national kind of organization, libraries oftentimes are like, I don't know how to do it. So we've created this so that you can actually like plug and play, send people to this link, and it's got everything that they need. So I'll just scroll down and kind of show you what we're talking about here. So in Info2Go, we're pulling out kind of all of this content here. This is going to use code. It's going to use Scratch, which is a free coding language for beginners. So students would just read the instructions. We've got a bunch of tutorial videos that they'll watch and just go from top to bottom. Step one, watch the story. It's got some check boxes that they can click to make sure that they're like on track with that. Number two, set up their code space in Scratch. It's got the link there for them to open up that. So they'll basically read the instructions, do the coding on another tab, watch the video on another tab, and they'll just kind of use this as their home base to go through. And by the end of their time, they'll have an entire video game completed. In fact, just like 5 minutes before this call, I got a notification that a user completed this. And I think it might be fun just to show you what a final project for this could look like. So I'm just going to open this up. Your students would build something similar to this. So I'll click the green flag and check it out. I've got this soccer guy, and there's a timer up here in the top left. This is the game that people will be creating in Hour of Code. It's got a soccer ball over here. Oh, I don't know if the sound came through, but it made like a rubber ducky squeaky sound or a dog chew toy. And then the soccer ball moved. It changed size, and I got a point. So the 2 times I've touched it, I got a point. And then the timer ends, and this coder said "Game over, suckers." So I don't know. That's borderline inappropriate, I guess. I don't know. I'm not too upset about it, but I apologize if that's ruffling any of your feathers. But yeah, that's what people are going to be making in this activity. And so, yeah, they'll just go through, watch the video, do whatever it's asking them to do, follow the instructions, and in 7, 8 steps, they'll have a completed project. And it kind of follows our learning philosophy and all that. But you can just take this, plug and play, run an Hour of Code event. Nationally, if you want to go to hourofcode.org, you'll see that they encourage people to do this in the month of December. You can register your event on that website and get counted. There's like 1 million Hour of Code events or something worldwide that happen in December. So you could be one of those. That would be awesome. But this resource is just going to make it plug and play for you. No lesson prep or anything like that. Just show up and have a good time. All ages. This doesn't have to be kids. This could be for anybody who's interested in computer programming. So that is in our free giveaways. We've also got no tech coding activities. These are 8 coding activities that involve things like cups and hopscotch and maps and stuff like that, where you don't need any computers, but it's going to teach these coding concepts through like real world stuff. And so it's like a good introduction to the coding concepts, things like computational thinking, like top to bottom execution, loops, conditionals, things like that. So you can access this. This is a guide that we put together and it's been super useful over a number of years. We've got a whole resource for how to run a coding contest. Like if that was something you wanted to do, like I don't know, like a 1 month or 2 month coding contest at your library, you can do that. Here's a guide for how to do that. We've got it going in conjunction with the actual activity over here. We've got kind of a lesson plan or how to for you, for staff, related to Hour of Code events. So you can access that. We've got a coder certificate template. So if you want to print off certificates for all of your coders, you can take that and just, swap out their name and print off a bunch of those. So that's available for you as well. And then this is a fun one, 8 ways to make Code Club more fun, kind of an infographic kind of thing. But you can take some of these ideas that we've been working on for a long time and implement them to make your Code Club sessions even more fun. So how many is that? 6 different resources you can take and use that are just free. So have fun with those. Use them, And then also in here, I just put my email address. If there's anything that I can do to help, to coach, to encourage, to cheerlead, that's what I love doing. So don't hesitate. If you just want to chat about anything in particular, I do a lot of just informal coaching, and I'd be happy to help you and chat through your specific situation. So there's my email address. Feel free to take that and let's set up a short call and get to know each other a little bit. All right, we are getting down to the last couple minutes of our presentation, and I wanted to make sure to leave time for Q&A. So yeah, if you have a question, feel free to put it either in the chat, or there is a Q&A module in Zoom. Either one of those, I've got them both up and I will monitor them. So go ahead and take a minute. And if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them. Also welcome to put in just reactions. If you're like, oh, this was interesting, or this was interesting, or something like that, feel free to drop that in. Or this was not interesting, or this was, hot air or something. Feel free to put that in as well. Open to all of that.
While folks are formulating and typing up their questions, I wanted to say that in terms of your honorary library membership, I think complimenting us is a really great strategy, and I think that you've achieved that very well. But I think what really pushed it over the line for me is that you really seem to see the value in libraries and the hard work and heart and determination that the people that work in libraries put into them on behalf of our patrons. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. I was afraid where that was going. I thought there was going to be a critique at some point, but no, just yeah, no, big library fans in like all of my life, like very authentically. We use our local public library regularly. My kids do story time. I've got a 6 and a 4-year-old. We are like, we're part of it. Library land is part of my life in a very real way.
So Luke, does Fiero also host color runs?
That was just my trying to convey the excitement of free resources. Woo, let's all throw color up, and that's so exciting. Free.
It's trying to fulfill your Andy Richter hopes and dreams.
You're a great Andy Richter, Breck. Somehow my the YouTube algorithm, somehow my algorithm's like all of it's Andy Richter based right now. It's not from Conan's perspective, but it's all these videos about like 8 times Andy saved the episode or something like that. I must have clicked on one and watched it, and now they keep giving me more.
That's funny.
Yeah. All right, well, I don't see any questions coming in, so I'm not going to keep us longer than we need to be. So I'll just wrap it up and say thank you all so much for your time. Those of you that are here live, those of you that are watching the recording, thank you. Annie, thank you so much for coordinating, organizing, promoting all of the amazing work that you do. So grateful for that, and looking forward to seeing coding stuff happening in Idaho in the near future.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording now.